Welcome to Cardboard Alchemist, episode number 2. I am Giovanni, aka Josh, and with me I have my awesome co-host, partner in crime, although he's a lot more of a nice guy than I am, I think, Sebastian with Polka Cleaning Shop. How you doing today, Sebastian?
Doing good. How about yourself, Josh?
Absolutely fantastic. Beautiful day we're recording here, and we're bringing you some huge news in the card restoration, which is blowing up on YouTube, about PSA and this whole questionnaire that they sent out. So I think let's just jump right into it. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it, man. We got to expose this.
Yeah, so check this out. So You've done a lot of research. I appreciate you, Sebastian, on this. But you shared this video, which I seen this video a while ago. This video talks about the president of PSA, Ryan Hoge, on Jeff Wilson's podcast, where they talk about card cleaning. And the question proposed is like, hey, what's up with card cleaning? And, basically, in so many words, Ryan's like, we don't know what these substances do to cards long term when they're in the holder. And he calls out specifically when people apply car wax, which is crazy. Yeah. Like, I know people apply car wax, which is wild. The Hyper Potion included in my kit is not car wax, but it is an abrasive. Bottom line, to get scratches out of cards, like this Lugia we're going to clean on the Patreon here. This whole, just trying to wipe it with a microfiber and thinking you're going to get anything off of this is not going to work, right? So, a part of this, he's basically like, we don't know what this stuff does long term. If we say something's a 10 and over time the scratches come back, we have a guarantee on our slabs, and we have to compensate somebody for that case. But car wax, any abrasive, you're buffing the surface of the card. The scratches are not going to come back. You're literally buffing the plastic down so the surface appears to be smooth. So it's this was recorded, man, how long ago was this?
It's a pretty old video.
A year. Yeah, over a year old.
A year and a half.
And
a year.
So at the end of this, by the way, which is a very interesting statement from Ryan, he says that they're working on advanced techniques to determine if a card's been cleaned or not. To this day, they have not come up with any advanced techniques. So that I called BS when I heard that in this podcast back then, and I still call it to this day that they still cannot detect if you're cleaning a card or not, unless if you leave residue on the card. That is the only case. I mean, what do you think about that?
Honestly, they've been saying a lot of things are speculating too, that apparently they're telling their graders to sniff the card to see if there's any scent to it, to see if there's any alterations. And if there is, that's what they put a card as altered, because it smells differently.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because, when I originally came out with my flattening kit, the humidors would come with like a piece of cedar wood, and I was humidifying my card with that cedar wood in there, and after a while I smelled the card, it smelled like cigars, right?
Yeah.
In fact, there's like a cigar. I actually have legit cigars in that one behind me, but
oh wow.
You don't want your card smelling like cigars. You don't want your card smelling like any polish. That's why I always suggest, the Hyper Potion I have that reduces scratches does have a scent to it. It smells like a flowery smell. All these products that do this have some sort of smell to it, and you just need to let your card air out. After you apply it and you let your card air out, there's no smell. So the only way you'd probably get busted on the smell part, cleaned it, threw it straight into a card saver. Card savers are basically like vacuum sealed bags, man. Like, remember we were talking about like humidifying a card, not letting it dry, and throwing it into a card saver will wreck it?
The worst thing ever. You don't do it, guys. I recommend. I learned from my mistake.
Yeah, top loaders are the way to go, because you have that little bit of opening still in it that lets the card kind of breathe and air out still. So I always suggest let the card air out for 10-15 minutes in the wide open, and then throw it into a top loader. And then, when you submit your cards, then maybe you can transfer them to a card saver. Although, interestingly enough, I talked to an ex-grader, and he told me he sends his cards in top loaders when he sends them to get graded. So, be it what it is, I have heard that they do charge you if you do send them in the incorrect way, which is not card savers. But anyway,
that's insane.
This conversation kind of led into something interesting that popped up recently, which is this whole topic of cleaning. And I just wanted to pull this up real quick because in the official terms of PSA, they say if you are knowingly submitting cards that you have doctored, which is all of these things, which, by the way, one of them is power erasing, which I'm like, are you taking
power erasing?
Yeah,
wow.
Power erasing, which is like the first thing I thought of was my power washer in my garage. If you're just like,
Jesus Christ, now that will destroy. Don't ever do that to your cards, guys.
Maybe that'll make for another good episode. But one of the topics here is cleaning, right? Cleaning, waxing, this sort of deal.
Yeah.
Rebacking is wild. I do not support that. But
no.
Cleaning and waxing, these are the two that are questionable because I think if you're using natural things, such as Kurtz polish, I'm pretty sure it's like just some sort of either beeswax or carabona wax, something like that. I'm not exactly sure it's proprietary mix, but it's something natural that after you polish it and you let it air out, there is no long-term damage, in my opinion, that will result from the card. Now, I get it. We don't have Hogness Wagners that have been sitting for 100 years in a slab to know whether these things are going to cause issues or not. So I completely understand PSA's kind of like reservation about supporting any of this stuff. But bombshell news about them suggesting additional services, one of them being card cleaning. Now, before we jump into that, which is hilarious that they've sent this survey out to a handful of people, one of them is grader notes. So, Sebastian, we were talking offline. I've done this service before, and this was when they originally released grader notes for the more expensive
higher tiers.
Yeah. And that, I got... Somebody's calling my Pokemaster Center hotline here. Let me turn on Do Not Disturb. So, this thing, when I did it, I paid a ton of money to do the higher tier. I think it was $80, whatever it was, to grade the card. They would give you grader notes on the higher tiers. The card was immaculate. Came from a CGC 9.5 and cracked it, hoping to get the 10. There was one white dot in the top back right corner of the card. And sure enough, I got the PSA 9, and they, in the grader notes, had like, not even a sentence. It just said, back top right corner. That was it.
That's all they do. I've been hearing like people do that too, and one person that got their card back they got it back an 8 or a 7, and I read that the only notes they got was just 3 or 4 words. Card is near mint. That's it. Like, it's insane. You're paying $7, $8 just for them to write a little note, which is preposterous and like insane that you're gonna be paying $8 just for like 3-4 words. I would say don't even do that at all. Like, don't, because you're just gonna be wasting more money, and it feels like that they just want to fish out more money from clients and customers. I don't know why they want to do that. They're already getting billions of dollars by the year just so they can charge another $8 for that. I wouldn't do that.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So this questionnaire is aimed at a business proposal internally that they said, we need add-on services. Any large company, they look at their core business and say, what can we add on to this? This is like going to Best Buy and buying like a DVD player and them going, would you like the $50 warranty on this thing? It's an easy add-on that they can throw on. Doesn't add much to the actual like logistics of the actual sale. This is just a money grab, hands down. They're looking for other ways that they can bump up the income that they're doing and whatever. It's a business. I get it.
Yeah.
But the grader note stuff. This is, you know what they should have done? Subgrades. Why are they even messing around with grader notes? Subgrades is like the obvious like choice here. That's why people like BGS. That's why people are using TAG. They can look at, in BGS case, the label says it. What's wrong with the card?
Yeah.
In TAG's case, they're amazing, profile of the card, 3D scans, which is funny. The last one here is premium images, including 3D imagery. They're stealing the playbook from TAG. They realize TAG is a huge competitor here. So it's interesting that they are going, you know what? We'll do the same thing. We'll provide 3D surface images of it. So this is interesting. And then they have the whole brand fitted sleeves, which is funny. Like, I know.
Crazy. $1.09, $2 just for that. No.
$2?
Even card cleanings for $3, you can get all light buff services, removes fingerprint, smudges, dust for $3.
Insane.
Yeah.
You can grab team bags that fit, graded slabs for $5 or something, and have 300 of them, and they're charging you $2.99. Oh, the branding that says PSA on it.
That's all it is. It's just branding. It's like same thing with Coach or anything else. They can just put their brand, and it's already like what's Versace or any other type of brand that's higher end, Dior. They just put their brand on it. Oh, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now. That's basically what it is.
What you're better paying for? Buy these on AliExpress. They're like $4 or $5.
Are those for the slabs?
Yeah. It still has a protective coating. You can peel this off or whatever, but it's magnetic.
Sick.
Yeah. Slab Mags makes really good ones, although those are more expensive. But you can literally find these. Like, if you want something to protect your card, a fitted sleeve is whatever. This thing is way cooler. Plus, it adds the curb appeal of the card much. Yeah. So that's wild. And then, okay, the whole card cleaning question. It says, for $3, bro, we will clean and lightly buff your card to remove fingerprints, smudges, dust, and then the controversial part, reduce minor surface scratches prior to grading. The only way you're going to reduce minor surface scratches is with an abrasive, which literally in the interview with Jeff Wilson says that they're not cool with. So either they've admitted that they can't detect this stuff and that if you can't beat them, join them, or anyway, this has caused like a massive upstir in the whole thing. And they obviously have major pushback. They have now changed the question to say, we're just going to wipe it, bro. We're not going to reduce scratches, which is hilarious, right?
Yeah, because they know that they did an oopsie there. They did all that, and now I'm pretty sure they got a lot of backlash from that. And now they're saying, you know what, we got to change it. You cannot tell people that we're going to be reducing minor surfaces, scratches, and everything, because they're probably going to be thinking we're probably using a wax or any type of spray.
If you take a microfiber and you wipe these two cards, they will not look any different, okay? I get it, maybe a fingerprint or a smudge or like just dust that is on there, but you know as well as I do, Sebastian, what we call poke mold, these black dots that develop.
It's hard to take off. You're going to need something to take those off.
You're talking about something that's been sitting in a binder for 20 years and that poke mold somehow gets, I don't know how that happens.
Embedded, it gets stuck in there. So that's something that you need.
Yeah, I've had to use like my dry cleaning tools and wet tools to get that stuff off. And so they changed the name from card cleaning to wipe down service, which this is a PR nightmare for PSA, right? I mean, what a 360 that these guys had to do on this. And so, again, I think this is just an admittance that they can't detect this stuff, and they're like, okay, we got to do something here. Ryan Hoge, again, from the original podcast we just talked about, he sent a message out there, and he's like, hey, whoa. This is just like the fact that we're getting cards from eBay now, and we're noticing like a thumbprint or something on the card, and we're just wiping it down as a courtesy. Which I will tell you, I've talked to ex-graders, and they do, if they see something obvious, like a smudge or a fingerprint, a good grader will wipe the card. I've even heard with vintage chrome cards, they have a very foggy look to them just because of the age. And I've been told, like, if you just take a wet paper towel and wipe, like, that foggy part, it actually brings back the shine. Now, mind you, the guy I talked to said he never really messed with any of Kurt's stuff or my stuff. He just used just plain distilled water and, like, microfiber or a wet paper towel. So, PSA, the graders are doing some of this, but it just depends on the grader that you're getting, perhaps. But now they just want to turn this into an official service. So this is causing a huge uproar. And so, this guy came back at him saying, this card cleaning service would just be a microfiber wipe, or are you using spray or anything like that? And they're like, no juice, no wax. We're just dry wiping it. You're not going to clean a card by just dry wiping it. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Now, there's other people in this community, which we'll talk about in the Patreon, that are submitting hundreds of cards to PSA. They're happily partnered with these people, and they are 100% probably using, at least some sort of spray, or maybe even, let's just say, they're using distilled water. I doubt it. I bet you they're using Kurt spray or something like that. Isopropyl alcohol mixed with water, whatever it is. I doubt that, that's... So, bottom line, with this whole uproar in this, I think that this is just a huge admittance from PSA that they know that this stuff is undetectable if done right. Again, the number one way you can get busted is leaving some polish residue on the card or the edge of the card, like we've discussed in the last podcast. I'm not sure if that was a Patreon or public, but as long as you're wiping it all off, you're good here. Yeah, so, isn't this crazy, man?
Yeah, it's insane. Now, it's an uproar that now PSA is being very hypocritical of all the stuff that they were talking about back like a year ago, saying that they're against it. Now they want to apply the service. It's just very hypocritical of them. Now they're just wanting to do this just to make more money. And then for like how you just said right now, we need something to take off those type of smudges, any residue or anything, because honestly your cards are going to be looking the same if they have none of those items with them. So you're just going to be paying for an extra service that's not going to be doing any good. You're just going to be paying more.
Yeah, this goes back to my belief that PSA should open up a tier called Restored. And they should grade a card, give it a number, and put a Restored label on the card. I will happily disclose that my card was cleaned and give it a number, okay? Maybe still consider cards that were colored or trimmed as altered. I get that. That's too far. But if you're wiping your card down, you're polishing your card, you're getting rid of some scratches, you're flattening it, honestly, the long-term issues of those methods, I don't see significant issues with. Again, that's my opinion, right? But at the same time, there are methods that maybe take it too far, right? Like we talked about in the last episode, the getting rid of whitening. I think that's a big no-no. You shouldn't do it. But it's possible, and people are doing it. And so we need to have better checks and balances in place. And the fact that PSA doesn't have the same sort of thing like TAG already has, because I believe if you want to catch people coloring or trimming, the number one way is with high quality 3D scans. You will most likely catch coloring, because if let's say the 3D scans show the edge of the card, high resolution scan of the side of the card, as we saw, there are probably going to be ways for them to detect with that surface scan that something's been colored. Same thing with trimming. If they scan the card in and overlay it with a template of what the size of the card should be, easy way that they can automate that. Doesn't take a grader to put one of those tools over it to see if it's the right size or anything like that. They can just get the card immediately, scan it, okay, it was trimmed, bounce it at that point before it even gets in a grader's hand. So, anyway, this just goes to show how much of a cluster it is at PSA right now. they are literally grasping at straws. I've heard 4-month backlogs. I've heard of, absolute horror stories with people getting cards graded, which we'll talk about here in a second, with grades bouncing all over the place. And now, of course, the money grab of, instead of 16, we're going to bump that now up to 18. And instead of 45 days, you're looking at 65 days. So this just comes down to how freaking big the backlog is at PSA, which people love PSA, man. One of our Patreon members was like, who's going to come out on top? Is there going to be a king in like 10 years? And obviously the king right now is PSA. But personally, from what I think, Tag is so, like, I wish Beckett had their stuff together a little bit. There's been so much like crap on Beckett's side. I really feel bad for that company. As a kid, man, my dad took me to sports card shops, and I remember Beckett being a big deal. There was the Beckett price guide. There was no website price charting or TCG player. The only way you knew the value was going and buying this guide from Beckett, and they've been around so long. Same with PSA. PSA's been around a long time too, but Beckett's the OG. I wish Beckett really kind of like was up there more. I love Beckett for grading. I think Beckett and Tag are the big ones. What do you think? Do you grade? I mean, obviously PSA's got a premium, but it's just like, come on, guys. Like,
I've actually emailed, this was with my first ever submitting with Beckett, because, Plano, Texas is like a couple hours, like 9 hours away from where I am, so I was visiting family members from Dallas, so I was like, you know what, let me stop by, and I emailed, I forgot his name, but I emailed him, and I said, hey, is it okay if I can do, like, in, drop-offs, that's when they were doing it at the time, so, to be honest, the submission was very hard, because it was in person, so it took me 3 hours to actually get inside the facility because of how much cards and how many thousands of millions of dollars they have in there. It's like a 3-step security, man, and I'm gonna say it's insane. The dude was great. He was like amazing. Communication was there and everything. He guided me through how the grading process works too. And honestly, I like their methods of how they grade, and of course, I know they're a little bit more tougher on grading because of because of their subgrades and everything, and but honestly, I just wish a little bit like people would like Beckett more, because of course, the only thing that I really like about them is because if it's a true 9.5, if it's a 9.5, it's a true 9.5 to a 10. That your grade really deserves that grade, because it was looked at thoroughly, and that's what your grade deserved to get. Especially if it's even at a 10, because it's tougher to get Beckett 10s than a PSA 10.
100%. A black label, that's why they go for so much more, right? I mean, the fact that PSA doesn't have a 9.5 is silly to me.
They have an 8.5, but all they got to do is just do a 9.5.
They have 0.5s for every tier except the 9.
Which is they should do that, to be honest, so they can have more things, because I mean, of course, price charting has 9.5, but at the same time, I really don't trust price charting with prices on cards, because that's getting all the sales that are going on in different websites. That's why a lot of people go to TCG Player 2 to get the real values, but of course, if it's a 9.5, it's very hard to get prices on those.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we'll talk in another episode like how you can accurately comp a card that's raw. I would think that would make a great episode, because I have my own methods there that I think are pretty rock solid.
And I've learned from your methods. I've learned, because I do the same thing of what to get and what I'm looking for.
When I first started, it's hard to understand that. Like you want just like, hey, how much this card's worth, and it's not that easy to just be like, it's worth X. You need to really look at the card. That's why if I'm at a card show, I always take the card out of the top loader and look at the card. There could be an indent. There could be a ever so small, crease that you can't notice when it's sitting in a top loader. Even graded slabs hide a lot, So anyway, another episode, but huge news. PSA bought SGC. Now there's rumors that SGC is going to get shuttered. There's all kinds of stuff going on here where I just think that, they're the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, and they're kind of flailing at this point, I feel like. But again, they're a company that wants to make more money. They've been bought by collectors universe, and they're just literally just trying to capitalize on the huge demand that they have. And I would love to see the collector community lean more towards BGS and TAG in the future here, because I think that they offer a superior service. It's just literally the branding of PSA that people like the PSA 10.
Yeah.
When in reality, you cross-grade that to BGS, it could hit a 9.5, or the 10, that gold 10, not the black label 10.
Yeah.
But there are, I will say, the Charizard first editions, PSA 10s do have this diamond on it, Sebastian, that is different colors. So they, at the very expensive level of cards, they actually do have like a black label, if you'll call it that, where I think there's 2 or 3 different colors of diamonds that they put on the slab that shows how good of a 10 it is. If
I never even heard of that.
Yeah.
The 3 diamonds.
We'll talk
That's
about
crazy.
that more in the Patreon. I'll pull up some links about that. But anyway, this is crazy. I feel like this just goes back to, and here's the deal, Sebastian. I have been contacted by PSA. Okay? I've been blowing up, and PSA contacted me, and we won't get into what they said, but bottom line, they have an eye on me. They have an eye on Kurt's Card Care. Kurt's the man, by the way. And they're looking at this stuff, and they're going, okay, people are doing this. It's becoming an ever-growing thing. We can't stop this train. The train has left the station. So this, I think, was an attempt at, can we join them if we can't beat them? Because they can't detect this stuff. So we'll see how this shakes out. But just from my perspective, I think that eventually they either got to open up a restored tier where they just say, hey, tell us it was restored. Just be honest. And I'm very moral with the way I do business. I feel like if you restored a card and somebody asks, hey, did you do something to this card? Be honest with them. Tell them what you did.
Yeah.
So I've got some, by the way, more ideas in the future that we're going to be talking about here with grading and things like that I think are interesting, and the whole restored topic. But we'll save those for later. The last thing I just want to bring up here, and I want you to lead this one, Sebastian. You brought this to my attention. This is insane.
This is a crazy story. So there's a Caitlin Clark here, Orange Eyes. So this person submitted this card, and they got the notification. You know how PSA always sends you a notification once your card's graded, and they show you what it gets. So right here, this card got a PSA 10, but when the person received the card, it came back a PSA 5. So when he saw this, when they saw this, he immediately contacted PSA, and PSA acknowledged this, and they told him there was probably a problem with QC. We're going to compensate you for this. So, okay, he sent the card back, and the card came back a PSA 8, which is crazy and insane. So why, what's going on with their process in PSA, man? This is just crazy and insane. 3 grades just for one card. From a 10, a 5, and an 8. That's just...
I have heard of 2 different grades before, but never 3. Never 3. This is crazy.
So whoever... Cow. I don't know. I mean, of course, like how you said, it just depends on the grader, but what the hell? It just shows that they're not really, they're not doing an effort in grading. They're not.
Wow, what happened to this card? I mean, my only guess would be okay, hit the 10, maybe somebody in QC. See, quality control, I thought, and maybe I'm not right about this, but I thought quality control happens before it gets slabbed.
That's what I thought too.
I don't know. I would have to look at the steps that go through PSA again, but I'm curious, okay, if the card was slabbed at that point of 10 and a QC person looked at it and saw an indent or something like that, and then just said, you know what, this is a 5, submitted it for regrading at a 5, But usually, I take that back, QC happens before the grades are revealed to you. So, before you even know what the grade is, QC happens. So this is kind of nuts. That means that the card was past QC, had the 10. Maybe the card got switched out or something. I don't know. Wow.
Yeah,
insane.
It's something that's just insane. So in all, cards are getting just regraded, which is just insane to me. That this card got 3 grades, 10, a 5, and then its final grade was an 8.
This is crazy. This is crazy. Yeah. I mean, this probably just goes to show how much of, a logistical nightmare things are right now with their backlog and, their processes right now. I think just the system is buckling under the pressure that they're dealing with over there.
Yep, and then they're opening new places too. I mean, like how you said, they're going right next to CGC, and then they're doing one in Florida, and I think I heard they're gonna do another in Texas too.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I heard this rumor that if there's 2 places I'm aware of that cards get graded, one in California, I believe Santa Ana or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's one in New Jersey. I heard that if your card gets sent to New Jersey, that when you get your cards back, you'll see the return address is New Jersey instead of Santa Ana. So they have like 2 separate grading. Like sometimes you'll send your shipment to Santa Ana, they send it to New Jersey, and then it gets graded and comes back to you. And I heard that people in New Jersey were giving out either worse grades or better grades, but my point is like, there's some inconsistency here, right? TAG scans a card and gives you a AI version of what they think the card grade should be. PSA, from what I've heard, will always have this stance of curb appeal from a human eye. Yeah. So I'm not sure they'll ever take the full approach that TAG has done with the whole like scanning a card and giving it a grade based on that. I think they're always going to have someone looking at the card that's a human. However, maybe things do change. Maybe they do that with SGC. They say SGC will be the AI one and we'll still be the human one or something like that. But yeah, this is absolutely nuts. So yeah, we are going to do something very cool here in the Patreon, which is we are going to be cleaning these 2 cards. And let me just show you real quick. Okay. This is their wipe down service right now, okay? They're going to take your card. Look how foggy this card is, okay? They're going to take this card and they're going to do this. They're going to just wipe it dry.
Nothing. Look at that. Still foggy, guys. It's still foggy.
Nothing. And I'll show you with some basic tools how you're going to be able to remove probably 90% of the crap that's on here. So again, subscribe to the Patreon, jump in Cardboard Alchemist, talk to us. We've got some awesome questions from people. I appreciate everybody that's supported us so far. And our first episode hitting over 1,000 views in our podcast. Just love the support. I know we're talking about some controversial stuff, but we're talking about the hard-hitting stuff nobody wants to talk about here. So if you're not in the Patreon, you're not catching the real juicy details. So get in the Patreon, and we will jump into exactly how to clean these cards and some other juicy news, too, about this whole PSA thing going on, as well as some other grading companies.
We're going to dive deep in that one.
Love you guys. Thanks for your support.
Thank you all.